Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Alhamdulillah, we've got to say we have a very special guest with us, joining us all the way from Islamabad, Pakistan. We have with us none other than Sahil Adeem, who I'm sure many of you out there are familiar with him and follow him on YouTube and Instagram with his amazing talks and reminders, as well as that his workshops that he does around the world. Alhamdulillah, he's with us here in Glasgow for the last few days, and very pleased to have him here in the studio with us. So Jazakallah khair, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And how are you?
I'm awesome.
And how are you enjoying the Ryan brew?
Yeah, actually, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Positive comments. Just for anyone who might not know who Sahil is, Sahil is a Muslim psychologist, trainer, philosopher, and Islamic speaker. He's often confused as a motivational speaker, though he rejects that label, and I'm going to pick him up on that one. He holds strong views on about the global situation in terms of the politics and it's happening around the world, and he's an academia to the very thread of the family dynamics and the upbringing of children through Islamic lens. He refuses to align to any specific sect and promotes Muslim unity as a collective entity. His most significant contribution is with the proposal of a 100-year plan aiming to revive the prophetic tradition of making the entire world a better place through Muslim youth of today. He currently serves as the CEO of Source Code Academia, a platform offering a comprehensive array of courses including Arabic, mathematics, biology, physics, and self-improvement. These courses reflect strong elements of emotional intelligence and self-awareness through the lens of the Quran and Sunnah. Sahil had the global exposure for the problems Muslims face due to his upbringing in Pakistan, North America, Canada, and here in Europe too. He graduated from the University of Chicago and Toronto Metropolitan University. Additionally, he had the opportunity to study Quran and Arabic under a number of senior scholars in Saudi Arabia and in the Yemen too. So without further ado, Sahil, again, welcome to Glasgow. Welcome to GTV.
Oh my God, that was tolerant. That was a little. Who wrote this?
I don't know. I just picked up. Someone sent me and said, "This is your introduction."
Yeah,
to
there
was
many
if
things.
there's any corrections yet, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that today as well. So through that introduction, I mean, as I said, there was a few things that came up. So how would you, best describe yourself? I mean, who is Sahil if somebody was to ask?
Well, I'm more of a, I think most Muslims should be in a state of how to react to a global problem that Muslims are suffering from, even as an individual. Yeah. This is a global problem, and I think the more individuals get globally aware, and we actually put set a pertinent worldview in our kids, and make sure that they start from the globe, and then try and solve the local problems that wherever they are in Glasgow or Islamabad or Melbourne for that matter, or Medina.
Yeah.
Unless they know and unless they understand how the globe moves, how these bigger problems actually originate, they're not going to be able to solve it. This is not a Muslim problem. This is a Muslim solution that we have. We have a Muslim solution, and I believe that we have the real solution towards the global problems, not just for Muslims, but for everybody.
Okay. The
Quran is not just for Muslims. The Quran came for all human beings.
Absolutely.
So I think I am just another reaction to make sure our mothers and fathers understand how to look at a child.
Sure.
And project the whole productive trajectory of the first 15, 16 years. After that, we won't be able to do anything about it anyway.
Yeah. So the idea of early intervention with young people and things as well.
Yeah.
And where did this journey all begin for you, Sahil? Where did that all begin? I mean, as a young student, where did it begin? At university, earlier stage in life, where did it begin?
Yeah, actually, for me, myself, there are no coincidences in the bigger plan of Allah. So I was thrown around from literally Anchorage, Alaska, to Chicago, to Toronto, to Islamabad, to Lahore, Karachi, and then the first 15, 16 years, I had somehow gotten that sort of a global perspective, and not just geographically, but demographically as well. my teachers were from far right Jordan and Yemen, to the Pakistani scholars, and to my most secular education system in America and Canada. It's like a mix of so many things going on. So any human being with that kind of diversity would naturally grasp a different perspective than a guy who's just walking a linear path from in any part of the world. If he doesn't move around, and we were made to move around because my father was moving around.
Okay.
And we were just growing up.
For what purposes was it? His job was it?
My father was exiled by the government. He was a writer. Okay. Yeah, he was a writer, and the Pakistani government was like, what, get him out and make sure he doesn't come in. So when Benazir, she came in, she brought my father back. Even though my father was not into politics.
Yeah.
But he was a writer, and he was a poet. So, and my father, when he came back, he wrote against Benazir, saying, you're even worse than that guy. I mean, I had nothing personal against that guy.
Yeah.
So we went back. So it was it's an interesting mix that, me and my sibling were going through. And we were just, that kind of household, which were absorbing every single aspect of whatever we could get our hands on. Okay. And that's why, Islam became a more prominent lifestyle even as a 13, 14-year-old. And at that time, it was not that, what's the word? Religious clerics were not there. There was no YouTube. There was, you really had to really go to an actual library. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's quite a thing. And, credit goes to all marks from my father, who pushed his boys to, be around the right people to understand Islam and take it seriously. And that's how it happened. And that's where I actually think, when I look at Indians or Pakistanis, the first thing I tell youth is that you have to start moving, regardless of who you are. You have to start moving, otherwise you're not going to get a bigger perspective. And unless you widen your gaze literally from east to west, you're not going to be able to understand where to place yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to follow whatever you're going to be given, and you're not going to be able to critically think yourself out of any kind of problem.
Yeah. And I guess that change of environment that you had as a young person obviously is a big part of your fabric today, I guess.
Literally. I mean, I'm just trying to relive those echoes which a 15-year-old boy was feeling, and those fascinations never leave you, because those pedestals are set by a teenager, which we all try and achieve. We wither some off because of whatever adolescence we have at that age, but some things stick. And I know that most of the problems the Muslims are facing are about 200-300 years ago. They were sewn in really deep, and it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to understand that we all have to come together. It is not going to be solved through Pakistan or Glasgow or India or Medina or Morocco. Everybody has to play his part together as a single community. And unless there is sticking glue somewhere, there are enough reasons for us to just fall apart. Yeah. And we need to find that sticking glue. And this is what I call to people like you to start using this word that you need to connect. Network, community, family, these are the keywords. We need to build that narrative that every Muslim from east to west has to understand the value of everybody else, and not just as a receiver, but a giver. And even if they understand the value as a receiver, even that will be step one. Yeah. Because even that will be energizing everyone to come in together, a single platform, and just get something. So our parents are raising, single families, and that's the bigger problem I see in, Muslims. We are not single families. We are part of a community, and we need to hold each other's hands, and we need to understand how to solve problems of Brazilian Muslims sitting in Glasgow. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like literally. And now we are in the age where technology has done that for us. Yeah. We can literally do more than the last 100 years combined to service this world community, like physically.
And I guess that kind of falls on, or comes to my mind is the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that we're like one body.
One body, yeah.
You know,
one
one part
ball,
of the
everyone
body
was a
hurts,
brick, yeah.
then,
Everything
the
hurts.
body hurts, yeah, absolutely.
Everything hurts.
You mentioned your father a few times there, Sahil. Just on that, was he one of your major role models growing up, or were there other people?
All in all, well, there were so many.
Yeah,
but this is the man. May Allah have mercy on him. He died in 2001 in Chicago. But I can't fathom the thought of writing the way he used to write. I mean, this was the kind of level that he's inspired me on. I mean, not just me, all of my brothers and my one sister. But he was more of a director than the actor. He was the agency of connection between the right people and his kids, and that's what a father's job is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna have answers to every question you can. I mean, it's not possible, and God forbid you have them. Otherwise, he's going to lose that sense of diversity. You know what I'm saying? So he used to get the right people to connect with his kids, and so that we could get not just the charm, but the correctness of the answers as well. That's the quality of this man. And I think every father has to have that quality, that there is no compromise in the correctness of the answers. The questions are coming from our kids, and that correctness cannot be done by one man. There is no kul ilm walking around this planet. So he needs to know how to facilitate the right teachers,
Sure.
And that's the job. That is the job.
Well, that's the job. That's the job itself. And who else would you say? I mean, in terms of like people that we might know, famous people. I mean, who would you say would have been one of your role models? Or
Well, growing up, I know there was this guy from Jordan, Ibrahim. His name was actually Mufti Ibrahim. He was not actually a Mufti, but his name was Mufti Ibrahim. He introduced me to writers. This was the guy who made me fall in love with the books.
Okay.
And there are so many famous writers because they're famous. Like, I jumped into Ghazali because of this guy.
Okay.
Ibn al-Qayyim is the guy who I think is the smartest man ever born. I still believe,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Abu Yusuf. These are the people who I actually, they were brewing inside of me. But later on in my late 20s, maybe early 30s, I went into a lot more of the contemporary scholarship, which is going around. Abul Ala Maududi became one of my sources of inspiration. Maulana Ishaq from Pakistan. Yeah. Oh my God, that guy is just pure nuclear potential. This is so amazing. It's like, I call him the most delicious human being born. He's so delicious. There's so many in the North American. It's so. I mean, if you're looking for them, you're gonna find people in abundance, and they're pure gold. But my teacher, my father, had always made sure that we don't enter an echo chamber.
Yeah.
We had to. I had to study the Deoband school with the Bareilly school, with the Salafi school at all times. And you know what? That's how I actually train the youth now. If you want to read the tafsir of the Quran, open 3 simultaneously, and not just from the same time. There has to be, from the classical era, one from your current era, and one from the current era, but not from your geographic location, so that you can get that perspective. And that's the triangle you start. You start your tafsir from, and that's how it happened for me. It works so well because you can not just get the sense of tafsir, but the sense of, or contextualize the argument of how he structures the argument around any concept. And then you can see the counter as well, the quality of the counter. So this is how I was raised into, understanding the basis of Islam. And I think every book, and you know what? Most of the parents are complaining that, kids are not jumping into tafsir and hadith and seerah because, this one line is a little too boring as well. You just have to close your eyes and follow. That's literally not Islam. You need to give him that challenge. And as soon as he's going to start comparing, it's going to be, that much more exciting.
Excellent. True. And that focus on the youth that you have and that passion that you have towards young people, because I guess it's that thing where we have to invest in educate our young people to an extent where the goal, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. Would that be the reason why, or the purpose why you do so much work for the young people?
Not just to stand on their own 2 feet, but to make sure that, the next few generations wouldn't have to put that kind of effort just to get up on their feet. You know what I'm saying? We have not been given enough time to spend knowledge because we were not stabilized 2-3 generations ago. If our generations were politically and financially stable, we would have been a lot more knowledgeable. We are too busy trying to make ends meet.
A lot more advanced as well.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And I mean, that's just an add-on advancement, progress, and growth. I mean, most of the Muslim nations are literally on the brink of survival.
Yeah.
So we need to have that sort of competence in any field that we jump into, so that, our kids, or ideally us, would be giving our kids enough time to just stay inside the books and libraries. But I know why would they? Because, man's gotta eat.
Yeah.
And they gotta feed their families. So that's what I said yesterday to people in Glasgow here as well, that, you want to do 2 jobs, 3 jobs, it's okay. Just do them. But make sure you do them really well. Yeah. Because I need one generation to sacrifice their time and effort and blood, sweat and money so that the next one wouldn't. And I wouldn't want any generation to have that sort of a, dilemma to face. But now we are in that sort of a situation. Yeah. So if you're migrating to Western countries, then you gotta know what the price is. And the price is you. One full generation has to, go through the wall, and the first man to the wall is going to be bloody. And I respect, and I think that's very honorable that, we migrate and, we spend enough time and we sacrifice ourselves, our time and our luxury, But our kids would actually grow and prosper into, stronger, more competent people who would really know what they're talking about, and they would substantiate any kind of claim that they make as a Muslim. Right now, Muslim kids, they talk, they write, they argue, but there's no substance behind them because they're not putting enough time into, doing their homework. So I don't like Muslim kids as teenagers having to work to feed their families. This is not why you migrated. Okay, that's not the purpose of migration. And even if you are, but that should be the end of it. You know what I'm saying? So go immerse yourself fully.
True that. And also in regards to young people as well, one of the things that people come to, and I'm sure yesterday's event was about the thing at home for young people. How should the parents be, in terms of in that process of bringing up the young person in their home? What do you think is the main element or the main factor they should bring into consideration when it comes to bringing up young people, especially in that youth early intervention? Is it time? Because we always talk about quality time with your children. But on one hand, you're saying it's fine to go to a job, do this, but how does that balance out?
No, I'm talking about men here. Well, the first 7-8 years, see, the Muslim woman is gifted that the divine literature is not forcing her to move around and just make ends meet. That's the gift of a Muslim woman. Because we now know through common sense that we need a dedicated mother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the Quran is forcing a dedicated motherhood. And that's twice the responsibility on the man. That if he needs his child to have a dedicated mother, and no one else can actually do the job because already a biological mother will be able to do that. No nannies and no daycares are going to suffer for this sort of. So if you need a child to grow, you need a dedicated mother for that child to grow really well.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm saying, you want to immerse fully. You got to do 2 or 3 jobs. It's all right. That's the price you got to pay for that child to actually have that sort of a nurse, that sort of a facilitator, that sort of an administrator as a mother. Now I know that ideally it shouldn't be, but that's the kind of situation we're in right now. In ideal situations, there should be a father, mother, and the triangle should be complete, where there's nurturing, development, growth. The whole IQ should be built by both the parents. Well, we can't even talk about these sort of things inside the Muslim-dominated areas, let alone, where they're immigrants and they're trying to survive. So try and understand as a man, you're not just going to have babies. You're going to have a very clear model as to how to give that child a dedicated mother. For that, you need to do twice the job. A literally job, like 2 jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's that sort of a decision. If you want to make that decision, take the plunge. Okay, apply for that immigration. Otherwise, the priority is the children. Yeah. The next generation is the priority, regardless of whether you're in Glasgow or Islamabad or Delhi. Your job is to make sure that the next generation is fully competent and he's got enough IQ and enough EQ, and that can only be given by both the parents. Either one of them will be able to, do the job properly. So this is more of a, one first filial dilemma which any immigration or diaspora is going to suffer or experience.
Yeah. And it's that thing, and I'm sure you get this again a lot, Sahil, in terms of, everything's in place at home. Mum's playing her role, father's playing their role, but you've also got the environment that they live in. So that's always a big factor in that as well, because they're spending 8-9 hours at schools, education, they're spending a few hours maybe here, there. So there's, and obviously social media and various other factors. So, there's a lot of things that go into play there. So what advice would you give in terms of parents, looking at that? They can do everything they can. And it's that other thing also, sorry, just to add on to that, is like, one child's absolutely fine. Then the next child, son 2 or son 3 or daughter 1 or daughter 2 is a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, it's like a totally different breed.
So, what would you say to that?
Well, that's something which, it's called the curse of ignorance in psychology. Most people don't even know what they're going to go into when they're going to go into this. Because this invisible enemy, comes from the cell phones. The school system itself is designed around building philosophies. We just don't see it, so we can't estimate the damage. That's one more reason why you, as a man, should really know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah. Okay? Because now there is no help. There is no help, and most of the Muslim women are not equipped to tackle the pressure, the whole education system, the new laws and policies, the whole wave of public policy which is going to. We haven't even experienced the worst yet, and we can't even tackle the first wave of the big problems that we as our kids are facing. They're asking real questions because they're getting those kind of thought processes developed inside schools and classmates and whatnot. So, can we quarantine? No, we cannot quarantine our kids. No, it's not possible. It's a conscious choice you make. No, the fact that if people didn't even know what that choice was, that's the real problem. That man is the enemy. He didn't even know what he was getting his kids into. So, people who know what the problem is and then they still are making that conscious choice, then, they better understand how to, develop 3 times a Muslim inside a single child. Because he would need that sort of a skin, that sort of a guard, so that he could take the blow. Yeah. And not just take the blow, but tackle it really well. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to survive, because he can't just say, Allahu Akbar, and solve a problem. People will be like, we need solid arguments, buddy. Yeah. And it's not just the fact that you have real arguments. You need a really well-structured political strategy to actually create a public policy, or influence a public policy, let alone create one. And so it's not just in Glasgow, it's in Toronto, it's in New York, it's in in South America, it's in Pakistan and India as well. So you need that sort of competence from a father, particularly. The burden is on the man, so that he is going to make a decision whether he wants this sort of a family unit. Mm-hmm. And where do you want that family unit? Okay? And it's not just the Scottish policy or the influence of the West on Scotland or vice versa. It is the man's influence on his own kids. And that's something which is not just going to come through books. You can't just, load your child with books and read them. Otherwise, they're going to take you. It's not, that's not how it works. You're going to have to build so much competence. And quite frankly, here's the irony. The irony is that even if you were in dead center Saudi Arab, Mecca, you would still have to have this sort of an exposure to a child, which a regular Glasgow child is going through or is receiving from school or the environment, so that the Muslim mind is developed to counter these sort of things for the future.
Yeah.
You can't just hide our kids in, Islamabadi basements and think, everything's going to be fine. Nothing's going to be fine. This tide starts from here and it becomes a big snowball and comes down to India, Pakistan. In the next 20, 30 years, our kids will be literally not even aware of how non-Muslim the thought process is at the base. So I think there's more potential in conscious Muslims living in the West, so that they tackle the first wave, tell us how it felt, what's the damage, so that we can actually raise babies with thicker skin and better IQ and some more deeper arguments and well-structured thought, because this is you're the first row facing the wind.
Do you think that we with our children? Do you think we're overprotective, monocultural too much?
No. You see, as a Muslim woman and any minority is overprotective. It's not just the Muslim in the West will, of course, there are just 4 million Muslims in England.
Yeah.
They have to be overprotective because the immigrants are naturally a little more superstitious than the regular Joe. Yeah. So they're going to be 10 times more overprotective. You see helicopter moms of philosophy as well. It's like, why did you, say that? Or why are you thinking on those lines? Even the child isn't even, she's actually putting bad ideas in the children. So it's natural. But I see how kids are immune to not being Muslims by their thought. Immune, literally. Versus the overprotective parents. And that's the bigger problem. Yeah. If you're so overprotective and still your kids are, atheistically driving their lives in little micro decisions, then what's the point of being that overprotective? Superstition is not going to get you anything. No. Literally, if anything, it's going to get your kids farther away from your own philosophy, because you're not backing it up by logic and deeper processed thought. So I think it's twice the responsibility, and the way we've structured the concept of Islam, I'll tell you, that's the problem. The way we've structured Islam as a concept and presenting it to the child, he's not so wrong when he says this is not going to solve any of my problems. Okay, you need to change the way you look at it.
That was kind of going to be my next question, was about that relationship that children develop, and we all develop. And our experience that we have with Islam is usually through a masjid or a mosque. And I'm probably getting into trouble for this question, but do you think the mosques are playing their roles?
Well, we better get in trouble for this, because we got to set the record straight. I think the masjid is the cause. The current definition of the way masjid is structured is the cause.
Okay.
See, masjid is
structure in the sense of,
well, they have divorced politics. Like literally, they have literally made sure that the child, and you know what? No one else has divorced politics. The child has not divorced politics. He's going to be affected one way or the other, sure. And he's naturally going to have to bow down to the power of wherever he is, be it Jeddah or Glasgow. Politics is politics. That is why we are designed to be in politics. Rather, we are designed to take the power and exert it for the better good as well. I mean, so it's not that it's anti-Islam. It is pure Islam, and we actually go towards the power because we are the only people who can handle it, because we have a book backing it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not going to take it, don't blame anybody else taking over and just using it on you. I mean, that's just natural. It is just simple math, and kids are doing that math, and mommies and daddies are not. Masjid is not. If anything, but it's just like, what? And you know what? I don't understand. I can understand if the Arabian countries are letting their kids not. I mean, they're forcing the kids not to be. But in the West,
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? The masjid in England, in Scotland, should have been 10 times more active. I mean, it's not like you're living under a Muslim ruler, Ulul Amr. It's it's going to be Khuruj. This is democracy. You have to play with the instruments they're giving you. And Victoria, I think, has given Muslims the biggest gift. She established a platform of 100 years, really well placed it, and set a lot of things right. That gave enough sense to anybody who's born and raised here to understand how power works, how the power structures itself, and where are the power structures, how to use those. It's like a chess player.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm way more hopeful for Muslim kids overseas in the Western countries than people, kids who are growing up in the Arabian and the Desi lands.
In some countries, yeah. And so that, I mean, with that in terms of institutes, not just mosques, but general institutes as well. How much of a role do they should play in terms of
they should literally
the family,
be called,
not just the child, but the family structure as well? Because obviously, when we talk about family communities, the social problems, the social issues that we have, and sometimes, first of all, as a community, we're very good at hiding things under the carpet, taboo subjects, these kind of things.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
If you don't have a solution.
So how do we? You just don't have. Okay.
No, yeah, I'll tell you. Anyone who does not have a solution is gonna, shove it under the carpet.
Absolutely.
And he's gonna be stepping on it.
That's really sometimes, and what I see that as to be sometimes is a cry for help.
That
people are actually they're asking this question because they're I'm here. I need something. I need your attention, whatever that may be. Time. I just a little bit of advice or whatever it may be, but yeah.
No, I'll tell you, let's just not divorce common sense when you're talking about any kind of problems. And the common sense thing is that unless there is a political establishment of the community, then any kind of social problem is national. You're asking for it.
Yeah, you are.
So all the masjids in the planet, wherever they are, I mean, they're really good in one story, which is a moral application of Islam on the individual.
Yeah.
And that's a job well done.
Yeah.
They have the literature. They have examples as well. I mean, the masjid imams are doing really good. They're structuring their personal lives. They're setting good examples. Not even 1% of them get caught because they're not into it, in doing any kind of ill in the society. That means, the masjid does purify or whatever responsibility they gives to the individual. But it's not working as a community. The people who go pray Jummah do not go to the same masjid in praying Asr.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the failure of the masjid right there. That means there's something not working. So unless we have a structure, which is very clear, I'm going to give you the solution right there. Every masjid should be connected globally, at least in the West. At least in the West. And not just talking about the school of thought.
Yeah. That's another fact.
Yeah, I'm talking about, let's just call a masjid a parliament house for just this session.
Okay.
All of a sudden, the imam's role becomes pivotal in the neighborhood. Like literally, he has to act like the local councillor, running the council in Glasgow. We have councils here, right?
Yeah.
So, and he literally has to make the rulings as in those micro decisions as well. And he has to pick out all those competent people.
Into consideration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this masjid was supposed to act like a tiny little parliament with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses, not just the 2 houses, which the English gave us. So that many kids would be involved as teenagers, and the responsibility should have been given by the masjid imam to the kids that you're going to be intervening in these sort of matters. It's not just volunteer mission; it's Islamic missions. For the neighborhood. I mean, how hard is this to achieve? It can be done on literally weekly basis, because all the neighborhood has to attend the Friday prayer anyway. It can become a town hall. And we never treat Masjid Jummah, the Friday prayer, as a town hall.
No.
We just have this little, written sermon. We just have to recycle it every single time. And everyone knows that everybody comes to the Friday prayer just to get out of this, masjid. As soon as the masjid, the prayer ends, everyone runs because there's no attraction there. This is where the solution is. Masjid has the solution. That's why, last year I started the campaign that the masjid has fallen. Like literally. I mean, that's the meaning of the word.
Yeah.
I mean, our kids are going to have to resurrect the masjid. And if they're not going to do that,
Yeah.
someone else will. And they're not going to be calling it masjid.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have any Islam in there. They're going to have the same instruments. It will be on a neighborhood level. It will be on a teenage level. They will be, empowering our teenagers. And naturally, our teenagers are going to run towards it. It's like the Pied Piper thing. Whoever takes over the first mover advantage.
Yeah.
So we might as well just do it right now.
Yeah, we need to get a house in order very much.
Our house in order. It's like literally, both houses in order.
Both houses in order, yeah, true. Something you said at the start, I wanted to pick up on, Salbai, was about your idea of fixing or looking things at globally, then kind of working at the local level.
Yeah, if you do not have a global philosophy, you're going to have a local disorder of the psychology.
Okay.
That's what I call it. If you're not globally exposed.
If you can think of that a bit more, expand that for us.
Yeah, if I do not know what's going on in the bigger discussion, the university campuses in America, I won't be able to make any kind of social movement in Pakistan. You know what I'm saying? Because I know where it comes from. It's basic psychology. That, whoever is building the primary, we are under the prevalent thought of somebody. And that's not a Muslim thought. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that. Most of the Muslims are under a Muslim thought. Because the masjid is not creating thought leaders. We are actually literally designed to not think. Because our last 700 years training is on fiqh. Fiqh is lawyership. Lawyers are trained not to think. But Quran doesn't just have fiqh. It has hikmah. Yeah. It has the thought. All of our Sahabas were thought leaders. Like literally all of them. You can't even find an exception that, this guy was just, saying, since Ali bin Abi Talib said that, I'm going to follow it. No, Sahabis didn't think like this. But we are trained to say, because I was trained by Shafi'is. Yeah. So since Imam Shafi'i said that, but my teacher was like, you know what? Unless you can prove Shafi'i is right, you cannot follow him. Yeah. That's the exact reverse cycle. Yeah. So lawyers are not going to do thought leadership. And as Muslims, we're trained to be lawyers. And so much so that we can actually, any lawyer would love to take up a case, right? Yeah. So we're taking up cases against Muslims. You know what I'm saying? And most of those cases, even if we win those cases, we're going to lose as a nation. Yeah. So somebody else has been winning this case, which is not a Muslim, on how to think, what to think about, where is progress, where should we take the next 100 years. And those were never Muslims in the last 600-700 years. Because masjid is not making us think. And even if they were making us think, we were thinking about how more of a Muslim I am than my next door neighbor who is a Muslim. Because he's just happens to be a Salafi or a Shia or a Sunni. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what I'm saying. We have confined ourselves into little clusters as lawyers who are always trying to prove how right we are in our belief system. And there is not even a single Muslim who's even thinking about what is the biggest problem on the globe and how to solve it. And where is the force to construct that kind of a solution. Muslims are not thinking on those lines. And mind you, non-Muslims are. Okay, and I don't blame our kids to be attracted towards, all of those schools which are talking about the bigger problems.
True. And from that, one of the things again about influence and about role models and things. One of the things that I'm sure it's quite current, is about this whole idea of identity, knowing who you are. And a lot of young people get confused with that idea because of, again, at home it's a certain culture and tradition, in schools a different culture and tradition, whereas somewhere else it's something else. Or perhaps, when they're watching things on social media, influenced by people like, Andrew Tate or people like that, who's now Muslim, it's very confusing, all these things, very confusing. What advice would you give to young people when it comes to these kind of things of where knowing your identity, knowing who you are?
See, I think Quran actually gives a spectrum of emotional structures so that parents can pick up whichever is relevant at the time or the area. So just saying La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, or making him believe that there is one God and the last Prophet ﷺ is our story. That's not going to cut it for the current day Muslim. People like Andrew Tate or whoever is representing whatever he's representing, even if it's not in the name of Islam, or in this case, he is a Muslim in the name of Islam, becomes attractive because it does call for the definition of the identity, re-identifying themselves. And Quran actually says, لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. That should have been the identity of the current day Muslim because somebody else played that game and they won it really well. You know, لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ is the American dream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not just an individual American dream, it is an American imperial dream as well. It was the Victorian dream as well. You know what I'm saying? So that should have been the Muslim identity. And that's so attractive that, you know, you can fit a million, billion Andrew Tates there and still they won't suffice. For لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. So we need to have that sort of a power. And for that kind of power, we need to have that kind of responsibility given to a Muslim individual. And first of all, how is he going to get that power? He's going to have that kind of competence, that kind of IQ, that kind of intellectual acumen. And Muslims don't even harbor that. By the way, our intellectual Muslims are borrowing that intellect from non-Muslims right now.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And hats off to those non-Muslims because, you know, they are still working on, that acumen, that raw human acumen that we as human Muslims were never barred or banned from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had the Quran and we could have set the precedents, but we followed precedents. Okay, well, but somebody's going to set it and human beings are designed to follow this precedence. So power has to be within the Muslim mind. Then it's going to come into the Muslim clusters. And then those clusters are going to, retain or control that or maintain that power. And since we didn't, no, they're doing it. So I can keep talking about, the Second World War and the post-war aftermath, which we are naturally, suffering from. And, we can talk about it. But that's a symptom of a problem. The solution lies inside how a father is treating the son. That's it. If enough fathers would know what I'm talking about, they would put those standards of competence and keep failing their kids until their kids really claw themselves up on those ladders and become that competent. And, you pick out an intellectual right now from any part of the world. He's going to be influenced by a non-Muslim scholar right now. This is the irony. Yeah. What kind of wings was he born with? Nothing. There were standards, and the powerful set the standards, and the people mimic those powerful people who represents knowledge or the standards of knowledge. So I don't want to make keep reiterating or regurgitating the same point. I hope every mother knows what I'm talking about. That we as human beings, let alone Muslim or any believer, we need our kids competent. I mean, I'm not saying anything which mommies and daddies shouldn't be drooling over right now. That I need the most powerful son or daughter in terms of intellectual acumen. Why are we not creating or setting the precedence of intellect right now? And if Muslims can do that, everyone's going to be running towards the Quran. And we keep complaining about, we don't have enough adherence to our own book. And that's why non-Muslims are repulsed from, from our book because we don't adhere to the Quran. Well, no one's going to adhere to any book unless that book is functioning as the primary power or source of power for the bigger part of the community. We are not in power, no matter where we are, from east to west, from Australia to Alaska. Muslims are always, or wherever you see, in the last 300-400 years, the weakest community is going to be Muslims. So why would anyone adhere to the Quran?
True.
I don't blame them for not adhering to the Quran because we've changed. We've restructured ourselves into isolated individuals who are going to look good in terms of character, but we'll not really use any bits of that character when it comes down to exerting it for لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ.
And in regards to again upbringing, I mean one of the golden rules that some people that you hear a lot about is the saying of Ali about the 7 years of nurturing and loving, 7 years of discipline, and then his final 7 years of friendship, befriending your child. Have you seen? I mean,
perfect psychology.
Perfect psychology.
Yeah. I mean, the current day psychology now says it right, literally.
Yeah.
So it's But see, before the 777, you need to set the purpose straight.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's one. And then 777. Just get one purpose straight.
Yeah.
You know, what do you see when the whole 777 is going to be achieved? Once you have that 21st year of your best friend who's living your dream as, you know, which you have as a father, your son is actually, your daughter is through that course, what is he achieving? And why? That's what I want the parents to you know, come together and first of all lock it down that, you know what, unless we set the, you know, the prism straight, this could be the biggest problem as well, because that creates the perfect copy of, you know, whoever the father is.
Yeah.
And we do not need copies of our, you know, this sort of philosophy that we got. We need to keep in mind that we need kids who are going to challenge it. And I'm telling you this right now, I'm not talking in abstractism, or I'm just talking about little specifics. You need to tell the kids that Muslims should be calling the shots on every single public and private matters of the human beings. If they cannot do that in their own lands, no one's going to start to believe them or take their word in their lands. So we need a working model, and that working model ideally should have come from a Muslim place. But I'm telling you this right now, the Western Muslims can slipstream.
Yeah.
And if they know how to slipstream from their own culture, they can actually use the Quran. So I still have hope. Of course, they're going to both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But, you know, kids in Glasgow naturally, and I've tested it yesterday, kids in Glasgow are way over the curve compared to any Pakistani is living in lower Islamabad. So that's the gift. Use it. But you know what? More intelligent the child is, the more problems you're going to have if you're not well set in your philosophy. You know, dumb children are not going to challenge your philosophy. Intelligent kids are, and that's their job. If they cannot challenge or, you know, conquer his own father, how are they going to conquer Scotland?
I think they should be encouraged to, in fact, do it more. So,
exactly.
Absolutely. Time is getting the better for us. Just a couple of more questions. Now, just on the Quran and Hadith, I mean, your favourite surah of Quran and why?
Oh, I can't. Oh my God, there's so much to play with there. It's about the time.
Okay.
It's about the problem.
Okay.
If you're suffering from a bigger problem, you'll see which surah is, you know, going to become your weapon, or whatever time that you're in right now. In terms of your emotional.
Let me ask you that. What is the surah then that gives you, you know, you're having a bad day?
Oh no, I'll tell you.
You're having a bad day and you want something.
I live in Pakistan.
You want that verse or that surah.
I live in Pakistan. You have a bad day just about every other. So surah is too big of a word for a Muslim because there's so much in every surah. But I know that one ayah keeps me going, which is Hal Jaza'ul Ihsani illa Ihsan. This keeps me going at the worst of the worst days, the worst of the worst moments. This is the fuel that is going to pick you. This I can, you know, raise a dead man. Hal Jaza'ul Ihsani illa Ihsan. That, I mean, it's just self-explanatory. I hope everybody, I mean, I'm going to start crying if I explain this. This is the way Allah sees the standards of how a human being should be looking at anything, especially other human beings. You know, the deed that is done upon you. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Can there be any other reward for an ihsan than the ihsan that was done on you? I mean, it's like, my whole life philosophy, you know, pivots around this one ayah. And whenever I read any kind of philosophers, be it Hume or Descartes or, you know, I just cannot see how else to ground myself as to, you know, the biggest anchor, the mightiest of those anchors becomes this ayah. I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm still feeling so bad by just picking one ayah. Because I'm leaving so much that, you know, but this is the one that I just can't get this out of my heart and head. Any given second, you're gonna take an MRI. This eye is gonna be like top of the list. There's gonna be so much more, but this eye is gonna be like.
And amongst the companions of this, how there are so.
Oh, it's a journey. Awesome question. It's a journey.
Who's your favorite?
And why? Okay, I'll tell you. The companions, and mommies should listen to this, okay? Because the way you're going to structure that archetype, or no, that caricature of the Sahabi, that's where your child's whole life journey, at least for decades. Because, I plotted one day, a few years ago, of what kind of influence I had and what kind of life aspirations I was generating, because this is a source of energy. And I found out that it was one companion that was causing that sort of, movement inside me. So I started with just like any other child with Umar al-Khattab. Any boy who reads enough about Umar al-Khattab. By the way, I was trained in Umar al-Khattab. It was like, a whole series of, projects and tasks and lectures. And this is where my Yemeni teacher comes in. This guy was all about Umar al-Khattab. So I started off with Umar al-Khattab, and then I went into Salman Farsi. Because somehow I kind of, taught, every child, I am Salman Farsi, because I'm going to teacher to teacher to teacher. Yeah. And then I went into Abu Ghafari. Okay. In the later part, because I was going through a lot. At that point, I remember, because, you reminisce. Yeah. And I was reminiscing. So I was thinking this is what's going on, and I still believe that there's still a lot more of Abu Ghafari's, element. That influence I'm talking about. That influence had a lot more element, and just keeps lighting the fire. But then I went into Saad bin Muaz. That as soon as I went into youth, I was speaking about, describing Saad bin Muaz, the standard that Saad bin Muaz set, so much so that Prophet ﷺ became expressive about putting him as a benchmark. And Sahabas were like, how can we achieve this benchmark? Yeah. I can quote you some hadith where Prophet ﷺ is talking about, if, for example, the grave is going to grab you and is going to squeeze any and every human being that's going to enter the grave, even if it is Saad bin Muaz. I mean, it's like when the Prophet ﷺ benchmarks you as a name, it's like, what else can you possibly achieve in this universe? Look at the resume of this guy. And then there was this caravan that just came in with the cloth, and everyone was running about. The cloth was so fine that even the Prophet ﷺ, praised it. And then when he held the cloth, he said, "This is the finest cloth I've ever," because he was a murshid himself. So he said, "This is the finest cloth I've ever held." But you know what? This is not even compared to a handkerchief, which Saad bin Muaz is holding right now. So when you read this, plus I'm not talking about Saad bin Muaz because of these 2, 3, 4 ahadith, but whatever the journey that he took. A 9-year-old Muslim, which means 9 years ago, he was not even a Muslim. In the 9 years, he'd achieved whatever he achieved, and then came Ali bin Abi Talib, and in my age, I think Ali bin Abi Talib stands tall now. I've gone through that transition, knowledge and courage, the epitome of knowledge, the epitome of loyalty to the Prophet ﷺ, the brother, I mean, you can't replace this hadith with anything. Everything else with all the Sahabis got can combine, cumulatively cannot hold the weight of, you are my brother here and you are my brother there. What else can you actually ask for? Ali, you are my brother here in this world, and you are my brother in the hereafter. What else do you want? What else do you want? I mean, it just tops it up. Any Sahabi would give his life for this hadith, So Ali bin Abi Talib is the current, so nuclear reactor sitting inside me right now the last few years. So from Umar al-Khattab to Salman Farsi to Abu Ghafari, to Ali bin Abi Talib. This has been like my visible journey, because there's so many questions that a boy would be thinking, why just these 4? I mean, these were teachers. Yeah. Okay. These are the teachers.
Right? Absolutely, yeah. For sure.
Plus the worldview actually calls for a Sahabi. That's the best part about Sahabi is that, if you have him defined really well, the current worldview that you have, you can get a solution out of this one, because we are imitating, we're mimicking the character of that hero that we ever make as boys and girls.
Sure. And what final advice would you give to parents? I mean, as you said in your introduction, you know the West, you know the East. Alhamdulillah, you're global that way. What advice would you give to families here in the West, particularly?
Not just the West, but the West can do it really well.
The West can do well. That positives and negatives. In terms of positives, what are they good at? What are they doing that they should do more of?
Good question.
What's the negative that they need to kind of work on? What would you say would be?
Well, a Western parent, a father or a mother. Okay, I'm just going to talk about a parent because, just to get a general answer. First, get the standards right. Okay, the standards of Islam right. A standard means, that element that you're actually trying to train or amplify inside the minds of your children has to have a solution to the problem that child is going to go through. Okay, so the standards of Pakistan, India, or wherever you came from, or Morocco, or Tunisia, or wherever, the kind of Islam that actually lives or brews in the minds of scholars there, that's relevant for those areas, and they are doing it by design. That worldview works. But in Glasgow, your kids are not going to be able to relate to those sort of spikes in the importance. There is a spike in the importance of what is the element of Islam that I really must adhere to. Never give up on that. And it's not just about not drinking or no adultery or no fornication or no girls or this. This is basic. I'm talking about raising the bar, standards. So thought leadership, political acumen, sense of community. Okay, sense of community can only be given to a Western Muslim. We cannot even get that sense of community in Pakistan or Morocco because we're born inside a community. We're going to take it for granted. Here, this child is going to understand the power of a community because he's going to actually need that power. In Pakistan, I don't need the power of community. I am in the community. I have problems from coming from the community. In Glasgow, I'm not going to get problems coming from Muslim. I'm going to be getting problems from everybody. And a Muslim's first job should be, as a mother, raise him as a giver. Because if he's going to be the first giver, everyone's going to become a giver. Okay? Givers produce givers.
Yeah.
We start thinking as a minority, and every minority thinks like that. If I'm raising my son or daughter as a giver, people are going to misuse it and, take advantage of it. No, they're not. The best thing about the giver is he is going to be producing givers because people are going to fall in love with him. We all love the givers. They never, created those selfish, elements. Actually, on the contrary, they actually inspired us to become givers. I'm talking about anybody, Muslim or non-Muslim. So if you can actually do that for the first 10, 15 years of your son or daughter, you're going to find out that if you are raising him as a member of a community, not as an individual, you should be testing your son or daughter that what kind of a community servant is he, and what kind of a test that you can actually design to see whether he's failing or passing on that test. It's very simple. Okay? So and he should be a missionary here. And he better understand that, he's a nobody alone and he's everybody combined. So these are the sort of, and plus I'm talking about, let's go through the first hour of this, of what kind of problem he's going to solve. He better be a thinker. He better be thinking, because if he's got the sense of community, naturally he's going to be thinking about the solutions of the problems of the community. Because if he's not a member of the community, he's going to be thinking about problems which are his own problems, or at best case, his mommy or daddy, the family problems. And most of the Muslims are doing that right now. So make sure he's thinking about 2 billion Muslims, and initially make sure he's thinking about all the Muslims of Glasgow. First, he's going to solve the problems of Muslim community in Glasgow. Naturally, he's going to be taking that up a notch by talking about European Muslims and then the global Muslims. Only a member of the community is going to solve the problems of the world, regardless of what kind of religion he has. We cannot expect individuals, selfish, self-centered philosophies to help anybody else other than their own selves.
So I guess it's that thing of know the issues, know the problems.
No, that's whether your son or knows them.
That's the underlining factor here. Know the issues and work according to that in terms of solving.
The solutions are going to come on his own.
Yeah.
But if he's not even looking for the problems, how can he even expect that he's the guy who's going to solve them? So at school, I'm talking about middle school, test your child whether he's concerned, whether he's actually looking for, what kind of, how many, kids, how many Muslim kids are there in the school, and what kind of problems are Muslims or kids facing in general. It's the mommy's job to make the child think on certain lines. You create those lines, and he's going to follow those lines. And later on, he's going to be drawing his own lines and his own literal artwork over that canvas you're going to be setting.
Sure. And just to kind of add on to that, a question maybe is that, do you think then our expectations are quite high for our children, too high? Do we set the standard too much?
Oh my God, no, on the contrary. We have literally we are raising insects here.
Right.
We're not even raising, they're just crawling. See, unless it's global, it's not Muslim.
Okay.
At least not in this day and age. If it's not a global solution he's thinking of, he's not Muslim.
So expectations to be global.
Yeah, at least, not just global right now, in the next 100 years as well.
Yeah.
See, if you aim at the tree, it's when I was raised by the Irish, okay? Literally in school, I went into convent. It was my sister Patricia. I remember I was in grade 2 and she told me this, and I'm going to tell you right now, that she said, son, if you aim for the tree, you might not cross the tree, but if you aim for the sky, you'll definitely cross the tree. So Muslims should be thinking global, not just the current problem of the globe right now, but the problems now and the problems which are going to come in the next 2, 3, 4 generations. That's the least a Muslim has to think on. And by the way, there are a lot of non-Muslims who are already thinking on those lines and solving those problems as well. So if you're not going to do that, our kids are going to go towards those realms which are going to be very attractive.
That's one of the things, particularly, I have a young family as well, sort of thing. So you always think about the Islam in the next 20, 30 years. What is it going to look like in Glasgow in Scotland? What's this?
Yeah. Well, you can see
it's going to look like. It's one of those.
I got a little glimpse yesterday about what's going to look like in 20 years. It's not looking good. Okay.
No. Let's give us some good news.
No. Well, is that our kids are going to actually, inshallah, hold the fort.
Inshallah.
If you're not going to train them right now, how dare we think they're going to hold the fort?
Yeah.
And not just hold the fort, raise it, and enhance get more people in, like literally, and make it so attractive and open that people want to be in and stay in.
True. Sir, we have to finish it there, unfortunately, but Jazakallah khair, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate your time here in Glasgow, and we hope for the rest of the journey. I know you're going down to London after this.
Yeah, right now,
tonight,
morning.
in fact, tomorrow morning, so it's no rest for the wicked.
No, this is not,
but this is no, but inshallah, in your travels, remember us on your du'as, inshallah,
you too, inshallah.
All safe, inshallah, all well, inshallah.
Thank you so much,
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for watching, everyone, inshallah, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.